Welcome to Algos in 10, Season 4, Episode 5, Father's Day Fishing Trip. As you can see, I am actually now standing because I've injured my leg playing volleyball, basketball, so I can't quite sit down very properly. That being said, my dad is doing well, and everybody's doing well, so that's great. In honor of Father's Day, we talk about one of our most favorite pastimes in the Lu fam, which is fishing. Without further ado, here's the episode. Warning, there'll be a lot of dad jokes, a lot of fishes, a lot of modeling and graphs. So this is a bit of a throwback episode to data modeling. This is this episode. We use a lot of different bait for fishing. It's the ultimate test of patience. In that spirit, we have some fatherly advice about waiting on timing things. We'll be testing our patience with Python Seaborn library for some trendline graphing. There'll be no leak code for this episode. So here's some nice dad jokes. What does my dad say when I'm lying to him? A red herring. What type of fish do we catch when we're mad at something? A snapper. I'm full of fishy feelings. I'm one of the most important leaders of fishing. I am part of the work that gets me and my dad the jobs. What am I? A network. Let's get cracking. So this is part 1 of the episode. The actual episode content, which has the problem, will be shown right now. So here's the episode content. We're casting a trend line. The most important statistic when we're determining trends in data analytics in both work and Algos in 10 fun with our fathers and sons is the trend line. According to Wikipedia, a trend line is defined as follows. And you can look at the Wikipedia link for personal enjoyment. Trend lines can be very complicated, but with each one, there's 2 main parts, a support trend line and a resistance trend line. So sort of like the cycling, like increasing your resistance to have support when you cycle. Same thing goes with algorithms and the trend line as well. We have one trend line that supports the data and one that basically builds resistance against the data. To do the following with Python notebook. We're going to build a trend line using the data for Florida's Clearwater Beach, which is where I visited in Memorial Day. Fishing, Florida's Clearwater Beach fish catching rate, with the average length of the fish being delineated as blue and the average height of the fish being delineated as red. We'll use the sample dataset from Kaggle, created on my new account, credit the original owner, who uses Kaggle dataset called fish.csv. And then, of course, once finished coding, that's for the episode. So one last dead joke before we get to coding. Unfortunately, the Celtics losing Game 7 to the Heat. A layup is to shallow fishing as 3-pointers to deep fishing. So now this is my first time in Algos 10 Season 4 we'll use the Jupyter Notebook. So in previous season, we used Notebook quite a bit. This should be relatively straightforward. So I talked about fishing and the dad jokes, blah, blah, blah. So here's like an example import from Seaborn, which I run, which is pretty cool. So Seaborn is a Python library that we use to build graphs that are a little bit more bougie than Matplotlib. Back in BU Northeastern grad undergrad years, we tend to use a lot of Matplotlib because it's the only resource available given university budgeting. Now at work and personal life, we decided to use something a little more fancier, which is called Seaborn. So we port Seaborn as SNS and we build a bunch of graphs with penguins. This is actually not my data set, it's just a sample run to make sure Seaborn works the way it's supposed to work. There you go, there's Seaborn. Of course, there's a little bit of clustering going on, K-means clustering, some good throwback stuff. And of course, what we're gonna go for tonight is the trend line, this stuff. So then talk about the dad jokes and everything, which is fun. To begin coding here, we first open the CSV file and see its contents, which is basically a bunch of species from bream to smelt, the weight of the fish in grams, the length of the fish in centimeters, height of the fish in centimeters, and how wide the fish in centimeters. We run that. And then we run the group by, which basically allows you to determine what type of species there are for fish. So there's 7 main types of species. There's bream, pack, parky, perch, pike, roach, smelt, and whitefish. Our family favorite is the bream, by the way. Sea bream is always a delicious fish to eat. We then build a seaborne plot graph with each species trend line of height versus length. And the length is determined by the average of length 1, length 2, length 3. So we use the data.log function to determine all the different lengths of the fish. As you also could tell, we got the average length of the fish to be 85 centimeters, which is the original length of the fish. We now determine the average height of the fish, which is 8.9 centimeters. So you can see the fish is about this long and maybe this wide. It's a pretty thin fish. And then we determined the average height of each fish is just 8.9 centimeters. We can now use these metrics to plot our seaborne regression trendline plot. So we import matplotlib as part of the plot, and look at a couple of subplots. First subplot is determining the trend line and the resistance and support line. The top line is resistance, the bottom is support. You can see this is reminding me a bit of, Worcester County algebra, inequalities type of stuff. You have like an inequality graph. Well, the second plot is basically giving you the residual plot, which is basically giving you all sorts of data points within the trend line using the residual regression model. And this is the linear regression model where we have the general trend line plot. The reason why we have 2 plots is because in data modeling, you want to make sure you have both a test and training plot data. You can see we made the basic regression and residual subplots. This is very useful for going to find an inequality plot of f of x is less than or equal to 8.9x, which is the height of the fish, plus 85, which is the length of the fish. So what does it mean in terms of regression? Let me quickly show you by a whiteboard. This is some really basic Worcester County High School throwback math, but very important to stand for regressions. So you have an y-axis and x-axis. And I'm going to change the color here a little bit, blue. So you have a general regression plot where it has something like this. Something closer to something like this. So I'm going to finesse this a little bit. It's a fairly steep function, nothing too crazy, fairly steep function. And you want to basically get all the values. So make a nice little box here. All the values that's essentially underneath this thing. So this is your trend plot, right? So I get all the values. They're underneath it. Sorry, that's actually terrible. I'm not going to scribble too much. So get all the values underneath this line. And we determine that line as the following. F of x equals to 8.9x less than or equal to 8.9x plus 85. And that's your inequality plot. So all the values above this is called the resistance line. All the values below it is called the support line. So these different lines are pretty important. So resistance line is the value above it. The support line is the value below it. And that's how you get to the data modeling. So that's how you get through the data modeling in this episode. But back to actual code. We then determined the inequality formula is determined by the facts that 8.9 centimeters is the average height of each fish, and 85 centimeters is the average length of each fish. We make some more plots, and it answers some very basic analytical questions. So this plot is regards to length 2, which is pretty similar. Length 3, also very similar. And now this gets interesting. We now have the plot being different, is adding in a new y attribute called weight. Remember, for each one of them, you have a regression plot and residual plot. to help you understand the visualization. So you can see here, it's a much more narrow band for the weight of the fish. And you can see the plot has changed significantly in terms of sizing. Same thing with the width as well. You can see it's been basically narrow banded. Let's answer a few basic questions about these plots. So what are some of the basic trends in each plot? You see that each plot resistance and support is very different. They don't have the same result as each trend line. How do you determine support and resistance trend line? You basically determine on each plot. For example, if you see here, the support trend line is obviously on the top, the upper bound, and the resistance trend line is the bottom or the lower bound. Here's a fun little throwback question. What's the main data structure we use to keep track of plots? What is this runtime? So this is related to earlier Algos episode with LeBron and neural nets. And if you understand what we're talking about, it means it's a graph. And as you recall, the runtime, which I'm gonna write over here, runtime per graph. So recall runtime per graph is O of V, which is the vertices, times the edges, OVE. And when do you determine to use such a data structure? We use it when we determine find the k-means or the centroids of each plot. And suppose we have this code instead. What will happen to a trend line? So we have SNS dot reg plot, x equals height, y equals length 1, data equals data. So first of all, in this case, we would have the trend line not change a whole lot. So it won't change it will not change the plot data points at all. What will happen is that we're going to have the following. We're going to have actually the trend line be shown in a different way. And that's basically what happens to the trend line. And let's try one more plot using sorted values for length 1 this time. What will happen to the plot in terms of support and resistance trend lines then? So this is another plot which I got from Stack Overflow. It's actually very interesting. And this plot you can see is a zigzaggy trend line type of thing on itself. So you see the biggest fish length is like 60 centimeters, while the small fish length is less than 10 centimeters. There's a very wide, diverse range of fish. And let me tell you guys, it's true. If you look at this green versus smelt versus whitefish, like you'll see the difference in terms of these fish species. These are different types of fish that you can also look at, and see what's the difference. So you can see, my dad likes to, fish the rainbow smelt and like other types of fish as well. So a little bit of biology in terms of, understanding fishiness. That's it for the episode. Enjoy your Father's Day weekend. Just one last Father's Day thing. Our family particularly likes to eat a lot of Eastern style food. So I'll actually have some sushi available for the portioning with Jason, episode 5. We call it Frank's Sushi Feast. I was supposed to have episode 5, but the Souls lost game 7, which is sad. So we're making some sushi for portioning with Jason for the Father's Day special. My dad actually already gave me the recipes on our socials. In addition, for this episode, if you're by any means confused by what we're talking about in terms of plot or seaborn trend lines, just download seaborn yourself, build a plot from scratch, and determine what's going on. And the reason why there's no leak code for this problem is you can't really unit test any plots and graphs. This is less about algorithms, more about data modeling. But there's some algorithms involved. For example, in here, you can see there's clustering algorithms involved. Even within the episode, we have some algorithms, the k-means and centroids. So if you like the centroid graph, this is like the k-means. We have to do one last annotation here, basically. This stuff is like the k-means. And this stuff is like, the median and median. So you can see a lot of this stuff is related to previous episodes for algorithms. That's why they always say you want to have at least solid algorithm foundation to become a data scientist or data analyst. This is the reason why, guys. So enjoy your Father's Day, and hopefully the Jokic Nuggets prove the Heat are not exactly with Jimmy Butler. And also very funny, if you guys see the YouTube channel right comedy, you'll see all sorts of funny things like, Jimmy the Butler and Nicky the Butcher, some good old NBA parodies. That's it, guys. Enjoy Father's Day. 父亲节好. Dia de Padre. Good job. And in addition, if you guys don't like fish, tell me in the comments and I will not post that much fish. My cousin, truthfully, is not a big, huge fish fan. Kaido K from Detective Conan is not a fish fan. Thank goodness my partner is a fish fan. She loves a good amount of Japanese sushi and food and, all sorts of good Boston poke and high-end stuff. So yeah, we have definitely a lot of preferences and likes in this day and age. And also, just a little quick comment about about fish in general. We have to make sure every time we do fishing is sustainable. It's not going to be overfishing or causing problems. So ensure that my dad doesn't overfish any fish that actually goes past the regulation. That's why we make sure in Algos 10, this data modeling, all the fish we fish is not over regulation. Now for real, happy Father's Day. Have a good evening. And see you guys later. Bye.